The Cincinnati Reds got a series win at Wrigley Field, and the guy who had the best night was Nick Krall.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name is Jeff Carr. We are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. We are lifelong baseball fans. We have been podcasting about these Cincinnati Reds for a combined 14 years. We love talking Reds baseball, and we love talking baseball with you. On today's show, Ke'Bryan Hayes may have blocked a prospect down in Louisville. We're going to tell you who a little bit later on in the show. In a few minutes, we're going to tell you why Nick Lodolo's injury might not have been as bad as we first thought. But where we are going to begin tonight is with Nick Krall, because he is taking a victory lap around Wrigleyville right now. Every single one of his moves contributed to the beating of the Chicago Cubs last night at Wrigley Field. We've got all of that for you on today's show that's brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Jeff, there was a lot to be said about the moves that Nick Krall made at the trade deadline. There was a segment of Reds country that was in the opinion, well, at least they did something. These moves are okay. They'll help the team, but they're not the blockbusters we wanted. Then there was that other camp that was like, this is terrible. The Reds suck. This disproves it. They're not going to win any more games. I'm out. Well, those moves pretty much contributed big time to the Reds beating down the Cubs and winning the series in Chicago last night.
I was told, and I vehemently remember this, I was told on the Wonderful X to shut the bleep up. The season is done. We got cheap owners. And, well, in 2 nights, Nick Krall had showed why he had a better trade deadline than Jed Hoyer did. And Jed Hoyer got a contract extension. So I don't know exactly how to make all of that out, but I saw some Cubs fans melting down on social media last night. And for good reason. We've actually been reached out to by a couple of different Locked On hosts that are like, all right, these Cubs are done. The Reds are the team to beat now. If you're worried about somebody other than the Brewers, and quite frankly, the Brewers are on like a 75-game winning streak, it feels like.
Yeah, we heard from Chuck. We heard from Chuck up in Milwaukee. We heard from the White Sox, who are just happy to have more misery spreading around the Windy City. So it's not just them. We heard from a lot of folks last night. This is good stuff.
It was fun to see, but it's all because of the 3 guys that the Reds got at the deadline. I mean, Zach Littell had an amazing debut as a Cincinnati Red. In fact, to the point that he had more strikeouts and more swings and misses than he's had all year. He never had that in a Rays uniform. And he even said after the game on Tuesday night that, he was really kind of nervous coming into this crew where he had higher expectations than any other place he had been so far in his career. And he just felt so welcome being a part of this group. The Reds pitching staff in general was very welcoming to him. And he felt very comfortable on the mound in his first time. Obviously, he gave up a walk and a hit to begin the game. And you're like, oh boy, here we go. And then strikeout, got out of that jam real fast. And it was cooking with gas from that point on. He did give up another home run, which again, we talked about that coming into the Reds. He led the league in home runs allowed.
And he's going
but
to.
It was a solo shot.
He's going to continue. He's going to continue to give up solo blasts from time to time. That's just the pitcher he is.
But he limits the damage because he doesn't allow other base runners. Then you had the great night at the plate from Miguel Andújar, who, he hit Shota Imanaga, something that not a lot of people did on this Reds team. You had the 1 inning where he got a ground rule double, and then Spencer Steer hit a single, and that was the Reds' first run. And you're like, man, is that what this game's going to be? But he also got another hit later on, was part of the 3-run home run that Spencer Steer hit. And just the way that he was able to add to the Reds lineup against left-handed pitch, that's what he was brought in for. And then not to be outdone, even though he didn't start the game. Ke'Bryan Hayes came in as a defensive replacement for Santiago Espinal, which somewhere is irony. And he made the most amazing defensive barehanded play. Oh, my goodness. Everybody that the Reds traded for looked good, Steve.
Yeah, I got a text from Tim Daniel that said the Reds team shop needs to get that Key Brian Hayes jersey in stock because he wants one. Look, these guys did what they needed to do. First of all, Andújar going 2 for 4, scoring a couple runs. Clearly, Spencer Steer likes hitting behind Andújar because that was a great 1-2 punch that those two guys put together. And then let's talk just a minute.
Clutch to you.
Yeah, right. That Mr. RBI kind of reminds us of some other guys from back in Reds history. Listen, here's the thing with Zach Littell. Given the injury to Nick Lodolo, which we'll get into a little bit later, boy, did the Reds need that start. Boy, did the Reds bullpen need that start. And quite frankly, I needed that start. And I think you needed that start. And Reds fans needed that start. We can all kind of take a step back now and take a deep breath and understand that when we get into the Nick Lodolo stuff, everything's going to be okay. We're all right. Nick Martinez will stay in the rotation for a couple more turns. Littell is filling a spot, and he's going to be able to be a good starting pitcher, and we are okay.
When I totally understood the consternation from Reds fans after a couple of straight bullpen days, because I was feeling it too, where I'm just like, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many pitchers we using today? Like I had to use 2 hands 2 days in a row for how many pitchers the Reds were using in games. And that was getting a little bit concerning. And the fact that they brought up Yasser Zulueta today, I was like, okay, I mean, if we need them, we got them. Thankfully, didn't need him. I did find it a little bit intriguing there at the end of the ball game that Terry Francona decided to be so shrewd with his bullpen management. He still brought in multiple relievers, but I got it from a sense of he wanted that win. He wanted to make sure he shut the door, got the series dub, and just continued to do whatever it was, whether it was cutting the onions or however he was yanking the tears out of Cubs fans in Wrigley, man. He was like, give me all them tears, baby. If I got to pull in another reliever, by golly, I'm going to do it.
And, you know, let's talk about that series W for just a second, Jeff, because they've now done what we ask of them in Chicago. They win tomorrow. Yep. That's icing on the cake, right? We did not expect them to sweep, but we wanted them to win the series against the Cubs. They've gone out there and done that after a really rough weekend where I thought it was going to be difficult for them to go into Chicago and do that. They have done it. So I feel good about that. I feel good about the way that the bullpen will now have had a little bit of rest heading into the Pittsburgh series, regardless of what happens tomorrow. Tito doesn't have to manage in such a way to try and scrape out a series victory. He's got that already. And the Reds need every win they can get. But I think it changes the way you have to manage in that game. If you're playing to try to win the series versus you're playing for a sweep, it's a little bit different in how he can manage the bullpen. But looking up and down the lineup at what happened, TJ Friedl, 2 for 4 at the top of the lineup last night. TJ Friedl laying down the butt hits, and by the way, leads the majors in bunt singles right now. TJ Friedl, he continues to do really, really well. And for the folks that care about batting average, he's still hitting over 270s, 273 on the season as a leadoff, playing every day against right and left-handed pitching. I love it. You continue to look at other guys in this lineup. Spencer Steer, 2 for 4, 4 RBIs in this game. Batting, where's he batting now? 4, 5, 6. Batting 6 in the lineup. This is the sweet spot for Spencer Steer. This is the perfect spot to utilize Spencer Steer. In the 6th spot with guys in front of him that can get on base. We see that from Andújar against left-handed pitching, and it juggles a little bit to get right-handed pitching. Gavin Lux in front of him. It gives him the opportunities to be this RBI guy. I love it. And then Jose Trevino. He fell off a little bit. His numbers dipped back down to where we thought he was going to be. His defense is still stellar, but he was also 2 for 4 last night. And as a backup catcher on this team, as catcher number 2, he's still hitting 259. He's still got an OPS of above 700. I will take that from catcher number 2. This lineup is in a lot better place, I think, Jeff, than Reds fans in general want to give them credit for. We're trained to be negative. We're trained to find what's wrong, but this team is primed right now that it's in a position it can turn a corner. It's in a position it can go on a run. I like that we're about to play 4 games against the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is a spot in the schedule where they can really excel and gain some ground, and everything's pointing to it all lining up to do that.
And to accentuate your point, Steve, if you go to the wonderfulbaseballreference.com right now and you look at the season as a whole and you look at the batting leaders as a whole by team and you go runs per game, the Reds are actually number 10 in Major League Baseball in runs per game. A stat that I don't think anybody would expect to see. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. And this series dub is brought to you by the trade deadline that Nick Krall had. All right, Steve, we did get some concerning news on, Monday night and then into Tuesday whenever Nick Lodolo hit the IL, but the updates on that immediately were very positive. Today's episode of Locked On Reds is brought to you by Game Day Hue, and so is this hat that I'm wearing. For Reds fans like myself, this one hits the mark. Game Day Hue makes clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base, because it's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, works on the golf course, or anywhere in between. Plus, on the course, I got this awesome glove. Super comfortable leather, very cool, and man, I'm smelling all the birdies with this glove. Tell you what, got to get yourself a Game Day Hue golf glove right now and a Game Day Hue hat, and you can get 15% off with the code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to stock up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, and the code MLB15.
The word you were looking for there was bogey. You said birdie, but you meant bogey, right?
Hey, I get some birdies. That's, Top Golf. But no, hey, thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you're an everydayer out there, you are awesome. And if you're not an everydayer, hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, because we're on all of them out there. And when you do, you get the Reds postcast with Tim Daniel going live at the end of every ball game. I know he had fun last night after the Reds clinched that series dub, and Wrigley, hopefully he'll be having some more fun with a series sweep. We'll see if the Reds can pull that off here this afternoon with Andrew Abbott on the mound. But speaking of the mound, Steve, we saw Nick Lodolo leave a start early for a blister issue, and it's confirmed he does have a blister on the index finger, the exact same problem that he continues to have, and he hit the IL. But the initial reports are all super positive to the fact that he said he caught it right as the blister formed, and he didn't want to throw anymore. He didn't want a chance doing what he did to it last year, where he ripped the blister, and that caused all kinds of complications and all this other stuff. And you also have this direct quote from Terry Francona after the game, or actually before the game today, yesterday, when he said he's actually doing pretty well. Quote, "I think for sure it'll be the minimum. In fact, I bet you he'll be ready before that." Your thoughts?
Well, this is going to be our first big test of whether or not we can trust Tito. If this was last year, I would have a lot of snarky things to say, and I would tell you that I absolutely
You're doing your best Zach Maxwell
anything.
Impression, right?
Right, exactly. I would have a lot of things to say, but this is the first time that Tito has come out and been very direct about what he's expecting from a pitcher and their injury. And I thought really he was pretty honest about Hunter Green too, because what he said about Hunter Green is, yeah, we don't know. We just kind of have to trust the player. We have to go with what they say, and he'll let us know when he's ready to pitch. And now with Nick Lodolo, he's saying, I think he'll be ready before the 15 days are up. When the 15 days are up, he's going to be back in the rotation. That's what he's saying. So if that's how it plays out, then I will trust what Tito looks in the camera and says moving forward about the injuries. I still am a little suspect based on the David Bell years, but I'm going to give Tito the benefit of the doubt. This is a good report. I want to give some real credit where credit is due, though, Jeff. I want to give credit to Nick Lodolo, because how many times have you heard me sit over here and say that the Reds have to protect these players from themselves because they don't tell the truth and they don't do what's necessary to protect their health? But here we have Nick Lodolo, who took himself out of the game at a time where he really probably wanted to continue pitching, but he took himself out in order to set himself up for a quick recovery versus trying to push through it and ending up on the injured list for months. So credit to Nick Lodolo.
Wait, because, every Major League Baseball player to an extent, unless you're, and I was going to make a comparison to the third baseman with the Angels, and I forgot his name. Anyway, whatever. Unless you're him, where he likes being hurt and just cashing free money and not playing any at all. Nope, lost
Rendon.
it. Anyway, Anthony Rendon. Yeah, unless you're Anthony Rendon, you're playing like the knight from Monty Python, where he doesn't have any arms or legs, and he's like, it's just a flesh wound. We're fine. Just a scratch. Come on, we'll keep going. Like Nick Lodolo knows he messed up last year when he pitched through the blister, and he understands that if you do that again, you're out for a while. And at this point in the season, if you're out for a while, you're not going to be part of a playoff roster if your team makes the playoffs, because they're now missing you. And I do like this, and I like the confidence that I'm getting from Tito with this quote. I don't think that this is coming from any sort of, false confidence. I think that he knows what he's saying. He's not going to say that without real knowledge of the facts. And I think that we will see him after the minimum, which means we see a couple of starts from Nick Martinez. He has been slated to start the August 9th game in Pittsburgh. And then we'll see him another time through the order, and then we'll see Nick Lodolo back, which I think, at least for this season, pushes the decision down the road of, do you save Nick Lodolo by moving him to the bullpen? Because I think that's got to be a real conversation.
I know you talked about this yesterday a little bit, and with all of our travel, both of us, this is our first time together this week since Bristol, but I don't know that moving him to the bullpen saves him, because the problem is, it's not an arm problem, it's a blister problem. Chris Welsh said on the post game the other night, and he and I have talked about this in person a couple times also, the thing about this blister is that it's in an unusual spot. Pitchers don't usually get blisters where this blister keeps popping up, and it's because of the unique way that Nick Lodolo throws the ball, or grips the ball to throw his curveball. And we know what his curveball looks like when he changes the grip, because he did, and it was bad, and he switched it back, and then it was good. We know what happens. So Chris and I have talked about this. It's a very unique spot. There's not a lot you can do about it. This is going to be a thing that happens from time to time. He's still going to grip the curveball that way if you move him to the bullpen. And if you move Nick Lodolo to the bullpen, you can better believe he's going to pitch 4 or 5 games a week, and he's going to pitch multiple innings. So you're not really going to limit the amount of pitches he's throwing. You're just going to put it out over more days. Now, does that protect him from the blister? Maybe a little bit, but I mean, how many innings did he throw yesterday and the blister popped up? 2 innings? You got into the second inning, right?
You got 5 outs. Yeah, you got 5 outs.
Right. I don't see that moving him to the bullpen fixes that problem. It's just going to be a thing where when he gets a hot spot, he's going to have to come out, and you're just going to have to accept that you're going to get a really good Nick Lodolo back to throwing the back foot breaker, back to throwing that curveball that's nasty, but on occasion he's going to have to come out and miss a start because he gets a hot spot. That's just the way it's going to be with Nick Lodolo in your rotation.
And I think I'm okay with that. And that's the reason that I'm not like super sold on the bullpen idea, but I'm definitely thinking about it a lot more. That, like, I feel like we've had this weird popularity of moving guys to the bullpen over the last few years, where we clamored for it with Graham Ashcraft because of good reason. People clamored for it for Hunter Green, still are. I still see that on some social media circles and on Reddit and things like that. Don't understand that at all. But with this, I think that there's at least a discussion to be had. But I'm with you. If that's how you can manage it, then that still makes more sense for the team, because Nick Lodolo in the rotation is more valuable than Nick Lodolo in the bullpen. And I'm happy to see that. And look, this is why it was such a valuable move to go get Zach Littell, because you opened up the ability to have that 6th starter on the major league on the major league roster in Nick Martinez, where he is a Swiss Army pitcher. He can do whatever you need him to. And that is his mindset, because I've seen the quote multiple times now, direct quote from Nick Martinez of, look, I just want to win ball games, and whatever I need to do that, that's what I'm going to do. And I love seeing that. Like, that is the kind of mentality I want with every player on the team. So to have a guy like that, Nick Martinez, don't come at me with the irony of how much money he is making. I understand the irony of it. I'm just glad he's on the ball club right now, and it's not my money anyway, so who cares?
Right. And we may not see him as fun as it is to call him the Swiss Army pitcher. We may not see him in that role, depending on how things go, because it could very well be that he fills in for Nick Lodolo, and then he fills in for a Chase Burns skipping a start or two. We don't know what's going to happen with Hunter Green. Likely Hunter Green is back by the end of this month, but we don't know for sure. So it may very well be close to October before they're really ready to use Nick Martinez in that role. But what a luxury to have that guy just sitting around to plug and play with. And I think that that's what Nick Krall had in mind when he went out and made the deal with the Rays and brought in Littell. And it's working exactly the way it was drawn up. You needed one more arm. We all kind of saw it when we were talking trade deadline. You and I hinted at maybe they need to look at a starter. It could be something, and they did, and it's going to work out.
And we saw the market for bullpen pitchers. Like, I understood like the idea of going, and I advocated for getting a top end of the bullpen guy, but my Lord, the trades the teams were making just to get those guys. I think Krall was really, really squeamish when he saw those offers.
Right. But what I know is that Nick Lodolo will be back sooner than we thought. So it's not as bad as we were running through our minds. But listen, there was another guy that was a trade deadline acquisition that played an important part in last night's win. That's Ke'Bryan Hayes, who ironically was the defensive replacement at third base last night in Wrigley. We're going to talk about Ke'Bryan Hayes and how he might be blocking a Reds prospect at third base now. We'll talk about that coming up next. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your very own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Have you ever looked around at your spending and been surprised at how fast it all adds up? I know that's how it works for me. I just tap that card, and all of a sudden I wonder where all my money has gone. Monarch Money helps you track all of that and get that spending under control. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, guess what? There's an audio feed for you. We are on every single podcasting app that's out there pretty much. If you find one we're not on and you need us to be on it, message Jeff. He can probably make it happen for you. Also, go check out the Locked On MLB feed. 2 great shows over there. Sully's over there talking national baseball, and you get Locked On MLB Game Night, where they're watching every game every day, so you don't have to, breaking down the entire league with all of the experts from the Locked On Network. All right, Jeff. One more guy to talk about. One more trade acquisition that contributed last night at Wrigley. Ke'Bryan Hayes came in as a defensive replacement, made another big play, did the things that you said he was going to do when they brought him over here, and made a difference in the game.
That is what he was brought in to do. And I said that on Monday night as well. And I thought that the play that he made to get Dansby Swanson at first on Monday was the play that won them the ball game. And on Tuesday, it wasn't the same drama, but it was an even better play because he had to charge really hard, barehand it, and throw it to first. It is a play that no player on this roster could make except for him. He is the only guy that can make the plays that he has been making. And I echo Tim's sentiment. Like, as soon as there's a jersey or something like that, honestly, I would like a Cincy shirts, Ke'Bryan Hayes shirt, where it's like a picture of him and he's just gold, because he's Gold Glover. That's what's going to happen. He's going to win Gold Glove this year. That would be amazing. Cincy shirts, by the way, really good at responding to shirt requests. There's a couple of Bristol shirts out there as well.
Mine's on the way. I ordered it. It's on the way.
Did you get the I survived or I gave up?
I gave up, baby. I gave up in Bristol. I was driving home well before that game ever got played on Sunday.
That was bad. But no, I agree with you on that one. Anyway, back to the Ke'Bryan Hayes of it all, like what he is, and if he improves any at all at the plate, this trade will be well worth it, because for the next 4 years, the Reds have team control, and he's making less than $8 million on average for those 4 seasons. And with that, you have the obvious fallout of, well, now CES is the odd man out, because CES has not proven that he deserves playing time over Spencer Steer. He has not proven that he deserves playing time over Ke'Bryan Hayes. And I don't know that you can make the case that there is now time for him to prove that. Like, he can't prove it at AAA. There's nothing that he can prove at AAA. And the fact that he has been down there for as long as he has been down there just tells me that they are not sure that there's anything left for him to prove in a Reds uniform. I don't necessarily know that that means that they will seek a trade this offseason. We'll see what that all means for it. He's not going into arbitration or anything like that. So it's not as if you have to non-tender the guy. And I don't think that would be a prudent thing to do anyway, because there's still a chance he figures out the hitting thing. But I don't think that there's any realm of reality where CES pushes for a starting spot on the corner infield.
The bat would be the only thing. He would have to go into spring training next year and be a whole different guy and force his way onto the roster and then make the most of the at-bats he gets to then free up Spencer Steer to super utility or something. There's a lot of ifs there. Trading him, I don't even think is a possibility. His value has never been lower. His value is rock bottom right now. So I think that's a guy that you leave sitting in AAA as long as you have control of him, and you tell him, if you ever want to be a big leaguer, you're going to have to fight your way onto this roster. And that's just the way it's going to have to be, because you're right. Right now, he's not performing in a way to move Spencer Steer off first base. He's not performing in a way that you sacrifice the defense at third base to have him playing over there. And they stuck him in the outfield a few times at a couple different levels and clearly decided they didn't like what they saw, because he was never back out there. So I think he's stuck. I think you're right.
From what I've heard from some reports of people, they liked Adam Dunn's defense more than they liked Christian Encarnacion-Strand's defense in the outfield. So not going to have him there. And he's an athletic dude, so you could kind of think maybe he slims down a little bit and works on that. But anyway, back to the bat, like that is the way that he figures it out, right? Because the Reds are doing that with Marte. They're like, man, the bat is good. We'll figure out a spot for him. That's what they did with Spencer Steer for a couple of years. And now it really looks like he is like this team's first baseman. He looks like he could win a Gold Glove there. I don't know if he does it this year. Because the other option,
because you're right, though. The other option there is his bat. If his bat becomes a big league level bat, you don't have to move anybody. You just make him your full-time DH, and everybody else rotates through positions. So there is an avenue for him there, but he has to hit like we've all expected him to hit. He has to be a 30 home run guy. He has to be a cleanup hitter type of guy if he's going to fight his way back onto this roster. And I don't see that happening this year. I don't think there's anything he could show me in AAA right now, barring an injury at the big league level, to even consider calling him back up. He would need to go into Goodyear next year and play his way into a roster spot with an extended look in spring training, and then make the most of those at bats to stay at the big league level. I don't see a way he comes back up this year.
And I almost think like the way that he works the way that he could earn his spot back is if there's an injury. And that's the only way he's got to Wally Pip somebody at this point. And going back to the challenge with his bat, like we know he's a low contact rate guy, and we know that Ke'Bryan Hayes has not been a good hitter this year. Ke'Bryan Hayes is making more contact than Christian Encarnacion-Strand is. So for all of the negativity surrounding Ke'Bryan Hayes at the plate, there's more for CES. And that's how much of a challenge we're talking about here. For a guy that I have sang the praises about his scouting report. I have said that the scouting report on Christian Encarnacion-Strand is of a game-changing cleanup hitter. He has not put it together. Whatever's on paper and whatever's on the field, there's a big gap in between what we have seen. And however it is that he can put that all together, I don't know. I don't see that path right now, because it really feels like the Reds' corner infield is set for the foreseeable future.
I agree. And hopefully CES figures it out and we get to have the fun conversation of having too many good players to get into the starting lineup.
Always a funner conversation.
Only time is going to tell. And that is where we're going to wrap up this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks as always for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, again, get over there and check out that Locked On MLB feed. 2 great shows in that feed. Paul Francis Sullivan, who likes to be called Sully, has you covered for a national perspective. And then MLB Game Night is going over there every night with all of the experts from all across the Locked On network. They're watching every single game so that you don't have to. We'll be back in your feeds tomorrow, hopefully talking about a sweep in the Windy City. We're going to keep gathering up the news, the notes, the information, and the reports, and keeping you locked on Reds every single day.
So, Steve, in Bristol, did you get the hot dog or the bun?
Dude, I couldn't even get some water. I had to just look at the sky and open my mouth when I got thirsty.
The old way. The old way.
The old way.